Welcome to Papa Duke's Bedtime Stories. Thank you for joining me tonight. I am Duke Pierce Reed, and I am the author and narrator of this story. Before we begin, tell me in the comments where you are joining me from tonight. Your presence inspires my imagination. There are always new stories to write. If this story captivates you, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Every interaction keeps the creative fires burning in me, and I thank you in advance. Now, let this tale unfold. Episode 8, Bedlam, a Wychwood Ghost Story. 1895, London. The black Shipton carriage tore along the hard clay road from Oxford, its wheels slicing through dust that rose and twisted like smoke. 2 horses strained at their harness, lathered and wild-eyed beneath the lash. "Faster!" cried the passenger. The young coachman's white knuckles locked on the reins. The coach swayed violently as it crossed the city gatehouse and clattered over cobbles. Pedestrians scattered. Curses filled the air. It clipped a bookseller's cart, sending pamphlets swirling like startled birds. "You damn lunatic!" shouted the street vendor, waving his hat. The carriage veered into a narrow Marybourne lane and jolted to a halt before a discreet door marked Scarlet Price, Solicitor. Wakefield leapt down, straightened his coat, and strode inside. Mr. Scarlet Price's office sat high above the choking street, its windows tall and curtained against the sun. The conference table gleamed like a slab of mahogany ice. Around it 3 men waited: Professor Wychwood, pale and precise, the director, sweating into his red leather chair, and Mr. Mann, Price's thin Scottish clerk, whose stillness made him resemble a sharpened quill. Price was seated as chairman. A 4th chair, shorter, deliberately placed near the window, awaited the late-comer. Beside the door stood Mr. Singh, impassive and immense, ready to assist the director if called upon. Mann checked his gold watch, snapped it shut without comment. "Still working properly?" asked Price. "Unmatched precision," said Mann, a coded exchange both for the gift and for their guest's lateness. The door burst open. Wakefield entered, breath ragged, face flushed. "My apologies, gentlemen. Urgent business has detained me." "Trouble?" asked the director, unable to hide his eagerness for what the meeting promised. "No, only redundancies in need of disposal," Wakefield replied, dragging a taller chair to the window and shoving aside the low stool, a small rebellion of posture. "Time is money for us," said Mann coolly, appraising him like a half-cut steak. Price lifted his chin. His voice, though soft, carried command. "I've called this meeting to discuss the Shipton estate. The girl, she is securely in place?" "She's adjusting quite nicely," said the director with a thin laugh. "Seems to enjoy her new home." Price nodded once. Mann's quill scratched briskly. "Then I see no reason," Price continued, "why the deeds, Shipton Court, the city holdings, and the plough lands should not be transferred to our trustees for disposal." "In Berkshire and Oxfordshire," Mann added automatically. "Yes, quite so." Price's lips twitched, the ghost of a smile. The director leaned forward, eyes bright. "And when might we expect our disbursement?" "You'll see money when I decide you shall," Price snapped, his single open eye narrowing. The director shrank back into his chair. Wakefield rose half an inch. "This is madness. What of my inheritance? The will? Every plate and spoon of Shipton was willed to my father and now to me." Mann set his pen aside. That will, he said evenly, was drawn by Mr. Price for your father. His task was to secure old Sir John's signature, and he did. He was paid handsomely for the service. I see no cause to pay twice. Price folded his thin hands. What's done is done. Wakefield's voice rose. But the original will, the one naming the cousin in Anglesey or even Emily, still exists. And I have it. Man's face reddened. Are you threatening us, boy? Price stilled him with a raised hand. Come, come, such fantasies do you no good. Paper burns easily. If I cannot have it, neither shall you. I'll expose the lot of you, said Wakefield, trembling but defiant. Let us not be rash, murmured Wickens. We all share the same interests here. He refilled his pipe, though his hands were shaking. Price and Mann leaned together, whispering behind a sheet of foolscap. Wickens watched the smoke curl toward the ceiling. Singh, by the door, did not blink. For a moment, the room grew unnaturally cold. Finally, Price spoke. You will continue to receive, beyond your present stipend, a dividend of the estate's profits until it is sold. Wakefield's chair scraped back. You'll not be corsairs of my prosperity, I promise you that. He spun toward the door. Singh opened it without a word. As Wakefield descended the stair, the office seemed to sigh behind him. The candles guttered, though no draught stirred. Outside, the horses stamped and tossed their heads as he climbed into the cab. To Sotheby's auction house, immediately, he barked. The coach rattled away into the haze. Inside, Wakefield muttered, I'll auction it off and be in Venice before the week is done. Damn them all. Back in the office, Price watched the door long after it had closed. Then, quietly, he said to no one in particular, He won't reach the sea. The garden was bright, almost cheerful, a deception. Beds of late summer flowers glowed in ordered squares, and the air carried the scent of cut grass. Yet the songbird seemed off-key, and every petal trembled as if remembering the storms that had broken it. Emily and Honeysuckle sat together beneath the great oak at the edge of the lawn, baskets in their laps, fingers busy with reeds and grasses. From a distance, they might have appeared two friends at leisure. Only up close did one see the glassiness in Honeysuckle's smile, the rhythmic twitch of her fingers, small habits of someone long trained not to think too much. Most newcomers take weeks to get over the strangeness, said Honeysuckle, braiding the blades with perfect mechanical precision. So nice that you've settled in so quickly. Less than a fortnight. You're an old hand already. Emily smiled faintly. I have been under physicians and nurses most of my life, in places not unlike this, she said, then hesitated. Well, perhaps not quite like this. Her eyes followed the high perimeter wall, its iron gates glinting far away. There were flowers there, too, and butterflies, but always beyond the window pane. Honeysuckle nodded as though she hadn't heard. Some are here because they're cracked, others because they're simply idle. I suspect you're of the first bunch. Her tone was light, but something sharp glimmered beneath it. Emily's mouth tightened. Professor Wickens tells me he's working diligently on my case. He says the process is delicate, but nearly complete. Once he secures a clean bill of health, I shall return to Shipton Court. She placed her half-woven basket aside and stared at the far-off city beyond the asylum wall, where smokestacks coughed black columns into the blue. Is Wickens your special friend? Honeysuckle asked, lowering her voice. Heavens, no! Whatever gives you that idea? Well, everyone should have a gentleman caller. On the outside, I mean. Not here, of course. Emily laughed, though the sound was brittle. The professor is my advocate, my protector against unscrupulous persons. As you say, dearie. Honeysuckle's pale hair caught the wind and shimmered oddly, as if dusted with frost. She straightened suddenly. Oh, pick up your work. Here comes that awful matron. The matron's shadow fell across the lawn before her steps reached them. She was tall, too tall, her starched cap nearly brushing the low oak branches. Her face twitched as though something underneath the skin sought release. Well, she said, her voice low and rasped raw, it seems our Lady Emily will soon be estateless. Her eyes burned faintly red in the light. Oh, you haven't heard. Shipton Court is to be sold to the highest bidder. Too bad for you. She smiled, an expression that made the air colder, then turned and swept away. Emily sat frozen. Her hands clenched the reeds until they snapped. She lies, she whispered. She must lie. Honeysuckle, flustered, tried to comfort her. Now, don't be upset, darling. Perhaps it's all talk. But Emily was already fumbling at her shoe. From inside she drew a folded scrap of paper and a stub of pencil. I must write. My grandfather's cousin in Anglesey must be told. He won't allow it. He'll intervene. She began scribbling, her letters jagged and slanted. They can't take Shipton from me. From the family. Honeysuckle placed a gentle hand on her back. We all write letters, she said softly. It helps, even if they never leave. Emily stopped. He'll see this one. Mr. Noddy will see to it. He's helped me before. Her hand shook violently as she signed her name. At dawn, she was awakened by a violent wrench at her bedclothes. Two attendants stood above her. Their faces were blank as porcelain. Up, said one. She was dragged into the corridor, her bare feet slipping on the tiles. The matron waited, tapping her shoe with metronomic patience. Her eyes were dull again, as if whatever had spoken through her the day before had retreated. Passing letters, are we? She said, voice thick with pleasure. Seems your Mr. Noddy isn't as loyal as you thought, little Miss Lady. She leaned close. Her breath smelled faintly of iron. Dr. Caldecott has a special treatment for such behavior. Emily's legs gave way. Take her, said the matron, smiling a smile that could have frozen fire. Take her to the quiet room. They dragged Emily down a corridor that narrowed as it turned, walls sweating from unseen pipes. The gaslights here were fewer. Their light flickered like candle flames in a draught. Somewhere below, a machine throbbed, a deep, steady pulse, too regular to be human. Quiet room, said one of the skycoats, his voice flat. The key turned in a rusted lock, a sound that echoed long after the door opened. The chamber beyond was small, stone-walled, and windowless. A leather restraint chair waited in the center, its straps dark from long use. Dr. Caldecott stood beside it, sleeves rolled, spectacles gleaming. His scalp was slick with sweat. Ah, our noble patient who thinks herself a lady. He gestured. The attendants forced her down. Straps crossed her chest, wrists, and throat. She tried to speak, but the gag silenced her. Disobedience, he said, selecting a needle from the tray. The brain must be reminded who is master. He bent close, eyes fever bright. When you wake, you'll thank me for your silence. As she felt the needles prick, the lamp behind him hissed and went out. A draught swept through the room, though no door had opened. The darkness pressed thick as cloth. Caldecott froze. Who's there? A faint scraping sound came from the far corner, like metal across stone. Then a voice, watery, gurgling, and close. Leave her. Caldecott turned wildly. Nurse! Who spoke? No answer, only the thick tick, tick of something dripping. He struck a match, trembling. The flare revealed the wall, bare stone, damp, and a figure crouched within the shadows beside the door. Tink. He was smaller than Caldecott remembered, his face half hidden beneath wet hair and matted like seaweed, but his eyes glowed with unnatural calm. You've had your turn, said Tink. What in holy hell? Caldecott began, but Tink moved before the sentence ended. Do you know why I am called the man of many faces? Caldecott's lips twitched in fear and excitement. I've wondered how you do it. Do you remove the skin? Are they awake? The flash of metal caught the brief light, one of the doctor's own tools, one which resembled a fishmonger's knife. The match went out. In the darkness there was no sound. In the darkness there was a sound, not quite a scream, not quite a sigh. Bubbles in water, metal against bone. Then only the rattle of keys and the soft slip of a buckle undone. Emily felt the gag fall. The straps loosened one by one. Her throat burned with the taste of iron. Tink, she whispered. His touched hers. Quiet now. The others are waking. The corridor outside roared alive. Doors slamming. Voices rising. The chaos of alarm. Tink guided her toward the open passage. His touch was cold, almost cold enough to burn. They ran, down stairwells that twisted like auger holes, through boiler rooms where steam curled from cracks in the floor, and at last into the old cellars beneath the asylum, rooms long forgotten, whose brick arches descended into black. This way, said Tink. His voice echoed oddly, as if two spoke at once. They came to a door half rotted from damp. When he pushed, it gave, revealing a stair spiraling down into a narrow tunnel. Water dripped from the ceiling. The air stank of stone and mildew. The catacombs, Emily murmured. They said no one comes here. They don't, said Tink. Not twice. They went down together. The further they descended, the louder came the sound of water, until the tunnel opened into a cavernous drain. There, in the flicker of Emily's stolen lamp, she saw the marks carved into the walls, circles, sigils, the same spiral pattern she had seen once in her dreams of Shipton Court. Tink, she said, what are these? Names, he said, the ones they forgot. We're nearly out. These drains weave through the old marshland. At the far end of the tunnel, a faint light shimmered. They followed it, wading through shallow water that rippled like quicksilver under Bedlam's walls to the river. When they reached the final grate, Tink pressed his palms against the rusted bars, and the metal crumbled as though it were paper. They emerged into the cellar of a tavern beyond the asylum wall. The air smelled of beer and coal. Upstairs, voices laughed, oblivious. Tink slid up the ladder, his feet floating as if rising on bubbles from the dark water. Emily stood alone in the silence, her bare feet dripping on the cellar stones. She looked up the narrow stairs toward the noise of the living world, then back into the tunnel's dark mouth, where the air still trembled with whispers. Come, said Tink. She hesitated, caught between two kinds of freedom. Then she climbed. Emerging into a back bar alcove, Emily reached out to thank him, but Tink was already slipping into the crowd of revelers, unnoticed. You're free now, he said over his shoulder. Come with me, she pleaded. We can both. He shook his head. I've got something to retrieve and a debt to pay. His eyes gleamed faintly. But you'll see me again. When the wraith calls, we all return. Uninvited, she followed nonetheless. End of episode 8. I hope this episode of Bedlam, a Wychwood Ghost Story, has enthralled you, dear listener, and brings you back for the next. Were you surprised by the plot twists? Or did you expect something altogether different? Share your thoughts below. The comments are always helpful, and I really do enjoy reading them. If this Wychwood Ghost Story captivates you, please like and subscribe to Papa Duke's Bedtime Stories for more, written and narrated by me, Duke Pierce Reed. You can purchase digital copies of most of my books online, from Apple Books, Amazon Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Nook, Kobo Rakuten, and dozens of fine online shops worldwide. Thank you for joining me tonight.